Is it
Hello.
audible? Hello?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Good morning, all of us present over here. We are here in the second phase of our online guest lecture of Communication Engineering by Professor Swapnil Ayane sir. I request Swapnil sir to please proceed for our second session, which is to be held as per our planning. We are going to hold it by the 6th and the 7th of the November. So I request Swapnil sir to please proceed for our second session of the online guest lecture. Hello.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
So good afternoon, students. Today we will continue with the remaining part of the this guest lecture. So I hope I am audible to all. Right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Presentation is visible to all?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. So yesterday we have finished up to this pulse position modulation. So as I told you yesterday also that this is basically a conversion process from continuous time signal to the digital one. So we have finished with the first phase, that is discretization of the signal. Now we will move towards a digitization further, wherein we will study why digital systems are required, what are the advantages.
Yes, sir.
Visible now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Means I need to keep it in a full screen mode. Visible? Yes, is it visible now?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Okay. So here first advantage offered by this digital communication over the analog is it is easy to regenerate the distorted signal. You might have seen the amplifiers located in between your service provider location and your home location in case of receiving the television signal if you are using the cable network. So those amplifiers are nothing but the regenerators which are located at a specific distance, so that they will be providing a gain to the incoming distorted or degraded signal and regenerate the pulse as that of the pulse generated by the original source at certain distance. So it is possible in case of digital communication only, whereas in case of analog it is difficult to retrieve back that shape of the signal. So in this case, regenerative repeaters along with the transmission path can detect a digital signal and retransmit a new clean noise-free signal. So this will be repetitive process after specific distance. So these repeaters prevents the accumulation of noise along with the path. So this is not possible in case of analog communication system. Clear? So this is first advantage. Second advantage, the signal switches between only two levels to represent the two bits, 1 and 0. So decision making is made easy, whether 1 was transmitted or 0 was transmitted. Then another advantage is hardware is more flexible. So in this case, in case of analog communication, whatever the experimentation you have carried out in the laboratory, you have generated AM wave, FM wave, you have measured the modulation indices for the different values. So in such case, if I want to convert some system into some system, or if I want to modify some features of the transmitted signal, in that case I need to make a change in the entire hardware. But in this case, this flexibility is provided by the digital communication circuitry by changing simply a program, simply by replacing the controllers, by changing some software part, we can easily modify the content which is to be transmitted by using the system. You can say in terms of frequency, some parameters, amplitude, band, right? So this feasible in a easy way in case of digital communication systems. And again, hardware implementation is flexible and permits the use of microprocessor, mini processor, digital switching and VLSI circuitries to accommodate it in. Then shorter design and production cycle. Another advantage is it is low cost. Another advantage, The use of LSI and VLSI in the design of components and system have resulted into lower cost. This is what the reason, because here it is maximum chip I use. The next advantage, it is easy and more efficient to multiplex the several digital signal. So this multiplexing is quite difficult in case of analog communication systems, whereas in digital it is easy to multiplex the signal from n number of users. Then another advantage is a digital multiplexing technique such as time division, code division multiplexes that can be utilized or that can be used in either of the system depending on a requirement. So few disadvantages also there in case of being a digital. First thing, it requires synchronization between the transmitter and receiver. That is mandatory. If synchronization between the transmitter and receiver is lost, then it results into loss of information. So this is first drawback. Second drawback, it requires A to D conversion at a higher rate. Third, it requires larger bandwidth because we are transmitting the signal with the help of FS, and FS is nothing but the sampling frequency, which is quite high. So bandwidth requirement is larger. Apart from this, when we move towards the digital, when we are saying that we are transmitting the bits, ones and zeros, more the number of bits, larger will be the bandwidth requirement. Then last is the performance criteria is probability of error or bit error rate. So this is the key parameters which are used in DC to evaluate the performance of system. In analog communication, you have done the calculation of bandwidth, signal to noise ratio. So ideally we know that signal to noise ratio must be high, bandwidth should be low. These are the requirement of analog one. But if we move towards the digital communication, the requirement, or you can say the performance criteria or parameters are different. Here the parameters are again one common, that is bandwidth. Second is, instead of signal to noise ratio, we will have what is the probability of error. When we say probability of error means how many bits are getting into the error. That is called probability of error. So ideally it should be 0. There should be low chances of error. Means what you are transmitting is 1 and what is received is 0. Means your 1 bit is gone into the error. So ultimately it is resulting into loss of information. So what is that BER? Bit error rate or bit error ratio. Yes, so that is to be estimated. So what are the goals while designing a communication system? So few, as I said earlier, bit error ratio should be, its probability of error should be less, bandwidth should be less. So here, being a designer, these are what the targets while designing any digital communication system. First, you should have higher data rate. So you are aware that in case of cell phone technology, earlier you are getting the data at the rate of kbps, then came mbps. Now you are using higher and higher day by day, right? So speed is getting increased, correct? So that is what a requirement. Then second, it is expected to maximize the system utilization. It should be 100% utilized. It should not be idle. Then third, you need to minimize a bit error rate. So as I said, PE should be minimum. There should not be error in the transmitted or received data. Then next, in order to minimize required system bandwidth, so your system should be designed in order to utilize very less bandwidth with high transmission rate. Because we are paying for the bandwidth utilization. We are paying the charges for bandwidth utilization, correct? And what we need, a maximum data rate. As a user, this is what expected. Then next, it is to minimize a system complexity. A system should be simple. And last one is to minimize required power. It is the ratio basically EB by NO. So if you look at this parameter, R should be high, U should be low, E should be low, bandwidth should be low, system complexity should be low, and required power should be low. So these are what the goals of any system designer while designing digital communication system. So first move towards this digitization is pulse code modulation. So as we have discussed yesterday, PAM, PPM, PWM. So the output resulted due to these system was analog in nature, was a function of time, whereas the output produced by this system is in terms of ones and zeros. That's why it is so called binary pulse code modulation system. Sometimes it is binary PCM because output is either 1 or 0 depending on a signal. Clear? So the steps to generate this PCM signal are: first, compounding, then second, sampling. So we have finished with this yesterday, the concept of sampling. Then third stage is quantizing, and last one is encoding. So encoding is nothing but converting decimal to the binary. Now what is this compounding and quantizing? So we will discuss today along with a block diagram of PCM. So in case of PCM, how the system works? So this is what the block diagram. First block, source of continuous time massive signal. So what we are feeding is an analog signal as an input. Next block is low pass filter. What is the purpose of this low pass filter? So before sampling, we need to ensure that whatever the signal we are going to transmit, that is strictly band limited signal. So role of low pass filter is to make this signal strictly band limited. Then it is fed to the sampler. So sampler is nothing but now a simple block shown over here. So it will perform the task of sampling. It will convert this continuous time signal into the discrete one. That is then fed to the quantizer. So quantizer will quantize this signal. The meaning of this quantize is, for example, the output produced by sampler for certain sample magnitude is 4.1 volt. The role of quantizer is to round off it to the nearest possible voltage level. So this nearest possible voltage level, let's say it is 4 volt. So it will round off to the 4 volt, and then that is provided as an input to the encoder. Basically this quantizer and encoder are combined in a single block. So when we say we are getting 4 volt as the output of quantizer, this is fed to the encoder. So encoder will convert this 4 into the respective binary number. So if it is 8 level quantizer, then it will produce 3 bits over here to represent that 4 into the binary. So output will be a 100. Clear? So what we have transmitted is continuous time signal. What we are getting in the output is a binary signal. Correct? So this is for one sample. So we are producing series of samples over here in the output of sampler. So accordingly, we will get series of binary bits over here. Clear? So this is how the PCM is going to generate binary signal. Now in the receiver, we are receiving this binary data over the we need to transmit this data over the longer distance. So in between this, there is a transmission path. So it is fed to the repetitive circuitry, that is regenerative repeaters. So it will regenerate the original pulses as it is, as per this binary data. So these repeaters are located at a specific distance. Then finally, at the receiver, we have first block as a regeneration circuit. So it will regenerate the signal if it is distorted. Then it is fed to the decoder. So here decoder is nothing but combination of these two things. Opposite to encoder. This will perform a task of opposite to encoder and opposite to quantizer. So this decoder will be combination of two things, that is decoder and dequantizer. So it will bring back to its original discrete form. Then it is given to the reconstruction filter. So in case of sampled signal, we need to reconstruct back a baseband signal by passing it through the low pass filter. So the same filter is available as a reconstruction filter over here, and then that data is available in the analogous form back at the destination. Clear? So these are what the elements of PCM system. Now this is what another way to represent this same signal, same system. Analog signal given to the sampler. In the output of sampler, we are getting this kind of signal, samples of this baseband signal whose amplitude is continuously changing according to this baseband signal instantaneous value. Then that is given to the quantizer. So you can see this is fed to the quantizer. in the output of quantizer, these magnitudes are getting rounded off to the nearest possible value. We'll see the detail in about this quantizing in detail in the coming slides. So here we'll be getting quantized signal, and then that is given to the encoder. So in the output of encoder, you are getting series of bits. Clear? Then this is what a graphical representation. What we have applied is this, right? Here this dot indicate a specific sample magnitude. This dot indicates specific sample magnitude. X of t is my baseband signal, which is sampled and indicated by these dots over here at a regular interval at a distance of ts seconds. So sampling is carried out according to the Nyquist criteria, right? Now if you look at this graphical structure, I have divided this maximum peak to the minimum peak voltage of the baseband signal into some parts. So these parts are called quantization levels. So practically 8 level, 16 level, 32 level, then 64 level, likewise up to 256 level quantizers are available. Now what is this number of levels? So if we go back to the previous slide, these number of levels are given by Q is equals to 2s to n, where Q indicates number of quantization levels and this n indicates number of bits produced by PCM system for one sample. So if I say the value of Q, if practically I am using an 8 level quantizer, then you can calculate this n number of bits per sample. So what will be the value of n over here? So this will be 3 bits per sample. It will produce 3 bits per sample. So this will result into 8 level. Means if I want to produce, so this depends on a designer criteria, what is the available bandwidth, how many bits he can accommodate for transmission of the signal per sample with the available bandwidth, what are the other conditions, how whether he can adjust with some loss of bits, correct? So this is what the constraint. So here one can go with 8 level, 16 level, 32 level, 64 level, 128 or 256 level quantizer, but when you move towards the higher value of the Q, the bandwidth requirement will go on increasing. That is also true. Clear? Now, here is the graph shown for few quantization levels. So you can see here these quantization levels are spaced equidistant from each other. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So this partition is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And at the center of these partition, a quantization levels are located. So I'll say this as a Q0, Q0, Q1, Q2, Q3, and so on. Similarly on the negative side. Clear? Now if you look at this first point is located somewhat higher than 1. Right? Here we have 1. It is, let's say it is located at 1.4. It is located at 1.4. So quantizer will round up this to the nearest possible value. So what is the nearest quantization level available over here is 1.5. Right? Then you can see over here a sample value is 1.3. Then quantized value is 1.5. For this 1.5, the code assigned is 5. Code assigned is 5. So this 5 is fed as an input to the encoder, which will convert this 5 into the 3-bit binary data 101. Clear? If you move to the next signal, let's say here it is slightly greater than 3.6, but it will assign, quantizer will assign 3.5, which is nearest possible value, and the corresponding code assigned to this is 7. So this 0 to 7, these are nothing but the 7 quantization levels. 0 to 7 is number of quantization levels. So 8 quantizer levels are there. That's why the binary data produced per sample will be resulting into 3 bits only. If we use 0 to 15, that is 16 level quantizer, then this same 5 will be represented in terms of 4 binary digits, 0, 1, 0, 1. Clear? So this is how the quantization is carried out. Quantization and encoding is carried out. Clear? So in case of any query, we can discuss at the end. The higher the quantization levels, more will be the number of bits required to represent these sample magnitudes. Clear? So the process of dividing the maximum value, if you look at this quantization, the process of dividing the maximum value of analog signal into the fixed number of levels in order to convert the PAM into binary code. These levels are often called quantization levels. And last is the encoding. So it is the process of, in this process, the discrete signal is represented by a sequence of first it is reverse to the noise and interference. This is first advantage, being a digital in nature. Then second is, it is also secure because you can add the security to the transmitted data in a different ways. So there are different techniques how to add the security. You might be aware of the few of the methods available, right? Then second, efficient regeneration and uniform format. Then third, efficient signal to noise ratio. Obviously, if it is more immune to noise, signal to noise ratio is better. And bandwidth trade-off. So these are all the advantages of any PCM, or you can say any digital system. Then drawbacks are, it requires larger bandwidth. Second drawback is, the upper and lower limits of the amplitude of modulating signal is fixed. So if signal amplitude is greater than this limit, then signal gets corrupted. Third, a small change in the signal amplitude cannot be detected and not able to cover more in one step. That is also true. So this we will discuss later, third point, with the help of one system. So transmission bandwidth required for this PCM. So we know that N is equals to number of bits per sample. Keep in mind, capital N is equals to number of bits used to represent one sample. Quantization levels, Q is equals to 2 raised to N. Signaling rate, so this is given by R is equals to N into Fs. So we know the value of Fs. Fs is nothing but sampling frequency, so that we are going to decide according to the Nyquist criteria. So the formula was Fs should be greater than or equal to twice of maximum signal frequency, where the value of N you will be able to find out from this one. So the bandwidth is half into signaling rate. Bandwidth is half into signaling rate. So I'll say N into Fs by 2 is the bandwidth required for PCM system. Now coming to the quantization, why it is required. So in case of conversion of continuous time signal to the discrete time signal, practically we used to deal with a huge amount of variation in the signal amplitude. So if you look at the variation, for example, let's say I need to transmit some voltage around, let's say 20 volt, 30 volt. How it is possible to transmit it with the help of fixed number of bits if there is a variation, right? Secondly, how to represent this 20 and 30 with the help of binary? It will consume more number of bits. So the bandwidth requirement will also fluctuate. It will require large bandwidth to represent the volt 20 or 30 volt compared to 3 or 5 or 6 volt, right? So in that case, what we are doing, we are using this quantization. So with the help of this quantization, I am going to fix these 20 or 30 volt values with some limited band of voltage variation. So these are what the quantization levels. So quantization is process of approximating a continuous range of values or a very large set of possible discrete values by a relatively small set of discrete values. Hence, in a quantization process, the amplitude of each pulse is expressed as a level from a finite number of predetermined available quantization levels. So if I'm using 8-level quantizer, I know whatever may be the variation in the incoming signal amplitude, this will required or this will be represented with the help of 3 bits only, not 4 bit. Even though the voltage is 20 volt, 30 volt, 40 volt. But if I'm using a 8-level quantizer, the representation of that magnitude will be only in terms of the 3 bits. Clear? So each level can from a given number of finite set. So this will reduce the redundancy in the transmitted information, and hence it will bring down the bandwidth requirement also. These are the advantages. So same diagram, so already we have discussed this one. So this is the signal, sinusoidal signal before quantization, and this is the sinusoidal signal after quantization. So it is not like a sinusoid in nature. This is quantized signal. So this value I am going to feed to the encoder. These values I am going to feed to the encoder for the conversion, so that it will represent this in terms of binary, depending on how many level quantizer is used. So these are classified in 2 categories, uniform quantizer and non-uniform quantizer. So what is the meaning of uniform and non-uniform? So if this step size, what we have discussed, this 0 to 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, these are located at a fixed distance. If the step size is fixed, this is called step size, then such quantizer is called uniform quantizer. If the step size is variable, then such quantizers are called non-uniform quantizer. So accordingly, there are 2 types, uniform and non-uniform. When the step size of the quantized interval are uniform in size, then it is called uniform quantizer, otherwise non-uniform. So uniform quantizer is again classified in 2 categories. One is mid-trade type and another is mid-riser type. So if you compare these 2 graphs, only the difference is where the step is lying, whether it is lying in the riser of the stair, or whether it is lying in the trade of stair. So here it is in the trade of stair, here it is in the riser of this stair. Rest being a category of uniform, the step size is fixed. You can see at any point the width, height of this vertical line is fixed, right? So that's why it is called uniform. Another is the non-uniform quantizer. Now here you can see the characteristics where the step size is continuously changing. Here it is smaller, more, here it is further increase, quite less, right? So this is a variable step size. So this variable step size is due to variation in the incoming signal. Clear? Quantization error. So quantization error is nothing but the difference between the 2 values. One is the value that we are feeding to the quantizer and another is the output produced by the quantizer. So as we have seen the concept where we have applied 4.1 volt and in the output we are getting a round off value to the 4 volt after quantization. So there is a difference of 0.1 volt. So this 0.1 volt is nothing but a quantization error. So when the signal is quantized, then this error is present over there because of that difference between the actual value and quantized value. What is the actual value of the sample magnitude and what is the quantized value? So this is called quantization error. So more the number of quantization levels, smaller will be the error because the step size is represented by the S and quantization levels are located exactly at the center of these steps. You can see here 1 to 2 is the step and quantization is located over here. So if you take this example where actual value is 1.3 and quantized value is 1.5, so there is a difference of 0.2, correct? So if I increase the quantization levels furthermore, if I make this quantization level, let's say from 0 to 15, 16 level quantizer, then this step size is going to reduce. So if step size is going to reduce, means ultimately the quantization error is going to be less. The samples will be represented more precisely. Clear? But with increase in the number of quantization levels, I need to sacrifice the bandwidth because more number of bits will be required to represent each sample. Clear? So the maximum error at any point is plus minus half of this step size. So here is the thing represented again. So here is one example, a voice signal band limited to 3.4 kHz. It is to be transmitted using PCM system. The signaling rate of PCM should not exceed 36 kbps. Find first approximate value of sampling frequency fs. Second, number of quantization levels q. Third, number of bits per word n. So we'll solve this. What is given? Maximum modulating frequency is 3.4 kHz. Then signaling rate is given. It should not exceed 36 kbps. So n into fs should be less than or equal to 36,000. Hence, minimum sampling frequency required to perform the sampling is, according to Nyquist criteria, 6.8 kHz. Right? 2 times the maximum signal frequency. But as the condition is given that signaling rate should not exceed this, you will be able to find out the value of n over here. So n, it is resulting into 5.29. So it will be approximated to 5 because bits cannot be in terms of points fraction, right? Point. So here you need to select closest value 5. Once you get this n, you have the formula q is equals to 2 raised to n. Substitute this n over there, you will get the number of quantization level, 32. Clear? What is another thing asked? Approx value of sampling frequency. So here we can calculate fs max, and that is equal to 7.2 kHz in order to avoid the loss of information. Clear? According to this sampling rate, it is 36,000. So here it will result into fs max as a 7.2. Earlier we have estimated fs mean from this value, given frequency. So there are different applications of PCM. It is used in the music, used for music, MP3, for any different format of the music, used for voice transmission, in your cellular telephony, right? So there are n number of real life applications available where this PCM is used. So here is the expression for quantization error. So it is denoted by this symbol aslam, that is plus minus half of the step size. So here we will derive the expression for quantization error, that is NQ. So let us say that the input signal amplitude varies between VH and VL. So we have some signal whose swing is from some minimum value to some maximum value. So if I assume this VH is equal to plus volt and VL is equal to minus volt, then total variation in the amplitude will be 2 volt, correct? Total variation will be 2 volt. The total voltage variation is divided into the equal number of steps, that is step size S, correct? So this step size can be calculated as S is equals to VH minus VL divided by number of quantization levels. So if you substitute the values over here, VH and VL, we will get 2V. This is what difference divided by Q. Now I'm going to assume this as a plus 1 volt and minus 1 volt. So this will be S is equals to, yes, what will be the value? 2 by Q. So here is the probability density function for this quantization error, which is present over the range of minus S by 2 to plus S by 2. So we can estimate the value for this as 1 by S, 1 upon this upper limit minus lower limit. So this will result into 1 by S. So mathematically it is given as this is present. The quantization error is uniformly spreaded over the region of plus minus S by 2. So it is present only over the limit of plus minus S by 2, elsewhere it is 0. So accordingly, mathematically it is represented with the help of equation 3. So the quantization error can be considered as uniformly distributed random variable. So it is a kind of a random process. Hence the mean square value for this voltage will be expected value of epsilon square, so that is equals to epsilon. So equal to integral over minus infinity to infinity epsilon square f epsilon of epsilon d epsilon. This is a way to find out MSV, that is mean square value. But the noise power is equal to V square by R. So generally we used to calculate the power by using the equation V square by R. So I'll say Vn square by R, where Vn is nothing but noise voltage. So from the figure, PDF exists only over the range from minus S by 2 to plus S by 2, and its value is 1 by S for this particular range, right? Then this noise voltage will be estimated as integral over this given limit by substituting the value epsilon square into here f epsilon of epsilon, that is PDF function, is replaced by 1 by S. So by integrating this, we will get S square by 12. So the equation for NQ, that is quantization noise, will be S square by 12. This is the case for uniform quantization. Why? Because the assumption that we made that step size for this condition is fixed, because we have assumed the quantization noise is spreaded in the range of minus S by 2 to plus S by 2. Clear? So you need to remember these equations. You can have the numericals based on this. Now expression for signal to quantization noise. So what we have calculated right now is quantization noise. Now we will derive an equation for signal to noise ratio for PCU. So in general, signal to noise ratio is defined as a normalized, it is a ratio of normalized signal power to the quantization noise power. So right now we have the equation for NQ with us. So we have mentioned this in terms of P by S square by 12. So that is equation 1. So in order to obtain the normalized signal power, so we will be assuming a sinusoidal signal with the 2 volt peak to peak amplitude like previous case. And then we will be calculating a RMS voltage for this one. So power for this one, considering the RMS voltage. So it will be V by root 2 square by R. Substituting here, you will be getting, or solving this, you will get V square by 2. So we will substitute this equation 2 in equation 1, because we already have the equation for NQ. Simply we need an equation for power. So I'll substitute this V square by 2 over here in equation 1, and further solving this will result into 6V square by S square. But in case of S, we know that S is nothing but twice V by Q, right? How? Here it is. S is equals to 2V by Q. So I'll replace this S by 2V by Q. So this will result into 3Q square by 2. But again we know that Q is equals to 2 raised to N. So I'll replace this Q by 2 raised to N. So this will be 3 by 2, 2 raised to n square. So final equation is 3 by 2, 2 raised to 2n for signal to noise ratio of PCM. So generally it is expressed in dB. So in order to express in dB, we will have 1.8 plus 6n dB. So this is the maximum signal to quantization noise ratio for uniform PCM system. For uniform PCM system. When we say uniform, the signal applied as an input is not random in nature, it is also uniform in nature, and we will be using uniform quantizer where the step size is fixed. When we say non-uniform, means step size is variable. Now here is another derivation when a condition is non-uniform PCM. So again we will use the same formula, P by NQ. We have the value for N. V by Q. So I'll replace this. Then Q is equals to 2 raised to n like previous derivation. Hence this will result into S is equals to 2V by 2 raised to n. So we'll substitute this equation 4 in equation 1. You can compare this. I have not assumed any sinusoidal signal over here to derive this because the case is non-uniform. So substituting this equations in equation 1, we will have S by NQ equals to 3P by V square into 2 raised to 2n. Again assuming the normalized condition that V is equals to 1 and power is normalized, that is 1. So we will get 3 into 2 raised to 2n. So this is the signal to quantization noise ratio for non-uniform PCM. This can be expressed in dB as 4.8 plus 6n dB. So there is two different equations. One is for uniform, that is 1.8 plus 6n dB, and for non-uniform it is 4.8 plus 6n dB. Clear? So you can have the derivation for these two conditions, or you can have the numericals based on this in the examination. So another operation that is carried out in PCM is companding. So what is companding? So in analog communication you have seen the two different processes in FM, frequency modulation, that was pre-emphasis and de-emphasis, wherein you have boosted a frequency component by some standard rule in the transmitter part, and at the receiver part you have bucked down by the same amount. So that was pre-emphasis and de-emphasis. Similarly, here in case of companding, we are boosting the magnitude of the signal. We are not boosting the frequency components over here. Here we are amplifying the weak signal to the some value and attenuating a signal which is already strong in their magnitude. Why? Because when we deal with the real life signal which are having variation, let's say a speech signal, music signal, which is continuously changing its amplitude, and if suppose I want to generate a digital signal for this voice, then you can imagine if I am using a fixed step size quantizer, then how this quantization error will react, how this quantization error will produce for this variation in the amplitude. Wherever the voice of incoming signal is having very lower magnitude, then quantization error will be larger for that one. If a magnitude of incoming voice is higher, then quantization error will be less. Means what we are getting is variable signal to quantization noise ratio. What I need is the uniform thing in spite of considering a variation in the incoming signal magnitude. So the solution is to boost the weak signal amplitude so that signal to noise ratio for weak signal will be better. So signal to quantization noise ratio will be improved in case of PCM system. So that's why it is stated as it is a process in which a weak signal are amplified and strong signals are attenuated at the transmitter before applying them to the uniform quantizer. So first compounding is carried out and then quantization is carried out. This is the reason. So this is called compression at transmitter. So exactly opposite process is carried out at the receiver called expansion. That's why combining these two terms, compression and expansion, is resulting into term called compounding. So as I said, what is needed? To improve the signal to quantization noise ratio of weak signal, as uniform quantizer NQ is fixed. Quantization noise is fixed. And how much it is? Plus minus half of the step size. So in spite of variation in the incoming signal power, the signal to quantization noise ratio will be poor for smaller signal amplitude. So that has to be boosted. So in order to do this compounding, there are two rules. So in the North America, mu law compression is used, which is mathematically given by this equation. Whereas in Europe, A law compression is used, which is mathematically given by this equation, where this mu and A are having some standard values. So if we move towards the graph, standard value for mu is 255 and for A it is 87.6. In both cases the characteristics curve are almost similar, but according to the values and according to the location, the use is allotted in North America and in Europe. So in European countries, A law is used. In North American countries, mu law is preferred. So here, if you see this graph around x and y axis, so on the x axis what I have is the input signal. So if the input signal is very less, let's say near 0, the input signal magnitude is very less, near to 0. So it is boosted by, or it is amplified very strongly. As the input signal goes, magnitude goes on increasing towards this 1, you can see the curve is getting bent, correct? So it is having logarithmic nature. It is having logarithmic nature, correct? Similar is the case for this one. So the weak signals which are having very less magnitude are amplified very strongly, and the signal whose amplitude is at sufficient level, they are getting attenuated. So you need to remember these two values. 255 is value for mu law and 87.6 is the value for A law. So this is combined characteristics for compression. That is, compression is carried out at transmitter and expansion is carried out by same amount at the receiver. So here is another example for the previous derivation. So in the binary PCM system, the output signal to quantization noise ratio is to be held to the minimum of 40 dB. First calculate number of bits per word necessary to meet this requirement and then find actual value of output signal to quantization noise ratio. So assuming signal is sinusoidal, to calculate n we have 1.8 plus 6n. So I'll substitute the values as per the given condition that SNRQ should be minimum 40 dB. So we are using this value 40 dB, so that we'll be able to find out what is n. So being a 6.36, I'll round up to the higher value, n equals to 7. Hence actual value of signal to quantization noise ratio in dB is 43.8 dB according to this n value. If you substitute this n over here and calculate the value, you'll get 43.8 dB. Clear? Next is DPCM, differential pulse code modulation. So what is the use of this DPCM? So before proceeding for DPCM, let me know any of you have any doubt in the PCM. Yes, students. In case if you have any query, you can post into the chat box also, so that at the end of the session I'll go through that and I will answer your queries. So next one is the DPCM. As the name indicates, differential pulse code modulation. Meaning is, instead of quantizing and encoding each of the sample, in this system we are quantizing and encoding difference between adjacent samples. So what will be the advantage of doing this? Let's say I have applied a sinusoidal signal where the incoming signal magnitude is gradually increasing or gradually decreasing, and I'm keeping the sampling frequency at a somewhat higher rate according to the Nyquist criteria. So whatever the samples I'll get those samples which will be closely located around each other, correct? So the magnitude variation will be very less. So when we pass these two adjacent samples, let's say one sample is located at 4.1 volt, another sample is located at 4.2 volt, then quantizer will round up both these 4.1 and 4.2 volt sample to the nearest possible value as a 4 volt. So what encoder will do? Encoder will produce 100, 100, 100. So this will increase the redundancy in the transmitted data. If the values are same, then why to transmit them again and again? This will result into wastage of bandwidth. So in order to reduce the bandwidth requirement, instead of quantizing and encoding a sample independently, here in the system we are quantizing and encoding difference between the two adjacent sample, and that difference is very small, 0.1 volt only. And to quantize and encode this 0.1 volt, probably I may not need a quantizer with 8 level or 16 level. It will be very less number of levels. So being a less number of levels, the bandwidth requirement for transmission of such signal will be very less. That's why we are studying this DPCM system, differential pulse code modulation system. So here is what I have right now discussed. 100, 101. If we move towards this where the signal is having no variation, 110, 110, 110, 110. So 3 times 110s are getting transmitted. Here 101, 101, 101. So why? So instead of doing this, what I will do? I'll take a difference between this 101 and 110, whatever the magnitude over here. So this difference is very small, and then I will quantize and encode that signal, and then that is transmitted. So because of this high correlation, bandwidth requirement is larger. So we need to control that bandwidth requirement. Clear? So this is the block diagram for DPCM, that is differential pulse code modulation system. So here I am using G of t, which is to be transmitted. G dash of t is the approximated signal generated by processing this G of t and G dash of t through the system. So in order to understand this block diagram, we need the support of graph first thing. Now here differential amplifier. So what it will produce? It will produce what is the difference between this incoming two signals, G of t and G dash of t. So this is called approximated signal. Clear? This difference is sampled with the help of sample and hold circuit. Sampling is carried out according to the Nyquist criteria, and this will be then produced as input to the quantizer. Output of quantizer is fed to the encoder. This encoder will produce binary bits that is then further processed for transmission. The output of quantizer is simultaneously used for deciding this G dash of t. So this is fed to the predictor and accumulator. Now we'll see the role of predictor. So predictor, so by using the knowledge of past sample values or differences, the predictor predicts the range of next required increment or decrement. Next required increment or decrement. This reduces the difference or error. To encode this small value of error, the required bits are less, which reduces a bit rate and hence the bandwidth. So assumption is, if suppose this SO of t is 1, so this will decide what is to be done with the G of t, whether it has to increment or whether it has to decrement. Then comparison is carried out with g of t. Then difference is produced. So this cycle is a closed loop cycle which will be continuously generating this SO of t depending on, or you can say at every age of the sampling signal. So this is what the receiver. So DPCM plus noise is fed as the input. This is fed to the serial to parallel converter. Then it is fed to the decoder. So decoder will perform reverse task as that of the encoder. Then it is given to the predictor, accumulator, and finally it is processed by the filter. Clear? So what are the advantage? It reduces the bandwidth requirement to half as that of PCM. This is first advantage. This requires less number of quantization levels due to small voltage difference. What can be the drawbacks? It is not suitable for low voice signals because it results into signal to noise ratio, poor signal to noise ratio. So what are the different applications? So it is used in lossy compression techniques like JPEG imaging, JPEG photo, where it is used. Clear? The next, delta modulation. You keep on watching the keep eye on the parameters that we are discussing from one system to the another system. In case of PCM, we have transmitted n number of bits. In case of DPCM, we are transmitting less than PCM. Now this is another system called delta modulation, wherein we are transmitting only 1 bit per sample. So this is also called 1 bit version of DPCM, as instead of converting each sample into n bit code, it produces only 1 bit per sample. So DM produces a staircase approximation to the oversampled version of input baseband signal. The difference between input and approximated signal is quantized in only two levels, that is either plus delta or minus delta. Means the output produced by this delta modulation is either 1 or 0 only, corresponding to positive and negative differences. So the diagram for this delta modulation is similar to that of DPCM with minor change. Instead of using difference amplifier, here we are using comparator. Here there is no need to use the predictor. So here we are using up-down counter which is driven by FS. Now let us try to understand the operation for this one. X of t, baseband signal which is to be converted into digital one. X dash of t is approximated signal. So we know the comparator function. When x of t is larger than x dash of t, output produced by comparator is high, else it is low. Means ultimately what we are getting is 1 and 0 over here. So you can see there is no use of quantizer over here. No need to use the quantizer. Directly we are getting 1 or 0 as a SO of t. So this 1 or 0 is going to decide the operating mode of up-down counter. If it is 1, this will work in a up mode. If it is 0, it will work in a down mode. This output is fed to the D2A converter. So this will convert this waveform into the approximated signal. Clear? Now we will see the waveforms. So here I have shown the series of clock pulses. So at every trailing edge, this comparison will be produced by the comparator. So here this is what a continuous time signal denoted by x of t. Another is the staircase approximation which is denoted by x dash of t. So if we take a comparison over here at this point, which signal is larger and which signal is smaller? X of t is larger than x dash of t at this particular point, correct? So what will be the output of comparator? It will be 1. This one is nothing but SO of t. So SO of t is 1. So counter output is incremented by 1. So this will be incremented by 1. and that is hold by sample and hold circuit for entire clock pulse. Entire clock pulse. Again comparison is made. Again it is found that incoming signal is larger than approximated signal. So again output is SO of t, that is 1. So again up down counter will operate in incremental mode, so it is incremented. This is hold by sample and hold circuit for entire 1 clock period. Likewise, this comparison is continuously carried out throughout the incoming signal range. Clear? Now you can see at this point approximated is larger than input. So output is 0. So when we say output is 0, this is hold by sample and hold circuit for 1 clock period. It is driving this up down counter in a down mode. Clear? So ultimately we will be getting a sequence 1 or 0 depending on this comparison, and that is treated as a final output of DM system. Clear? So this is how for each sample we are generating how many bits? Only 1 bit for each sample, because for every pulse we are getting 1 sample, and for every clock pulse we are getting comparison, so that is converted into 1 bit. That's why it is called 1 bit DPCM system. So this is the simple receiver using again up down counter and clock generator, because here we are getting approximated signal. So when we feed this approximated signal to the low pass filter, D2A converter and low pass filter, then it will give us the analog signal. So the advantages are bandwidth requirement is very less. So in case of PCM, the formula for bandwidth was NFS by 2. Now here value of N is only 1. So it will be only half of the sampling frequency now, bandwidth. Transmitter and receiver are easy to implement. Then drawbacks. It suffers from the disadvantages such as granular noise and slope overload error. So what are these two drawbacks? If you look at the step size, the step size is fixed. Now what if my incoming signal variation is too high or too speedy? In that case, it will not be possible for the staircase to cope up with the variation in the incoming signal. So there will be huge gap between these two signals, your approximated signal and input signal. So this huge difference is called slope overload error. What is the solution? Solution is to increase the step size. And how I can increase the step size? By increasing the FS. But if I increase the step size, there is another drawback called granular noise, which is similar to the quantization error. That will also increase. When it arises, when your incoming signal is approximately constant, then a step will hunt above and below this signal level. So this is similar to the quantization error. So if I want to minimize this, I need to minimize the step size. But if I minimize the step size, I'll suffer from the slope overload error. Right? So what is the remedy to overcome both simultaneously? So in order to overcome both these errors simultaneously, the another system is developed that is called adaptive delta modulation, where the system adapts the changes in the incoming signal variation. That's why it is so called adaptive delta modulation. Again, it is also works on the same principle as that of delta modulation, because it is also transmitting 1 bit per sample, but it overcomes these two drawbacks. Clear? So here is another system called adaptive delta modulation. If you look at the diagram for previous, that is delta modulation and adaptive delta modulation, you will find that it is same except one change. Instead of up down counter, now here we have used a digital processor in order to decide whether to increment the step size and by how much amount, or whether to decrement the step size and by how much amount. So if you go for this calculation and see the waveforms, so here counter is replaced by digital processor posting. So at the trailing edge of kth clock pulse, the processor generate a step which is same in the magnitude as that of k minus 1 clock pulse. The meaning of this statement is, if I want to find out what is the step size for this kth clock pulse, then what I need to consider? I need to consider what is the status of output produced by k minus 1th clock pulse and what is its magnitude. So if I assume I want to calculate a step size at this 6th clock pulse, so what processor will do? Processor will generate a basic step of delta in the same direction as that of k minus 1 clock pulse. K minus 1 clock pulse is the 5th clock pulse. So here it is in the same direction. So you can see the statement, step which is in the same magnitude. So magnitude is delta. Clear? Second thing is, it will compare the direction. If the direction of both steps is same, then the processor will increase the magnitude of present step by delta. If directions are opposite, then it will decrease the magnitude of present step by delta. Means at the 6th, processor has generated delta because k minus 1th pulse magnitude is delta. If you go for this 7th one, if I want to calculate at the 7th one, what was the magnitude at 6th? This is 2 delta. So initially processor will generate this 2 delta. Then it will check for the direction of k minus 1th pulse. K minus 1th step direction is positive going, so it is further increment this current by delta, and so on. If the direction is reverse, then this will decrement by delta. Meaning is, SO of t is plus 1 if x of t is greater than x dash of t just before the kth clock pulse. SO of t is minus 1 if x of t is less than x dash of t just before the kth clock pulse. Then this calculation part is done with the help of this equation. Del of k equals to del of SO of k plus del of SO of k minus 1. So here same calculations are represented. Let k is equals to 6, means we are trying to calculate what is the step size at the 6th clock pulse. Hence, according to formula, what we need? What is k minus 1? So k minus 1 equals to 5. So del of k minus 1, so del of 5 is nothing but delta. Del of 5 is delta, right? Then what else we need? SO of k. So SO of k is SO of 6. So SO of 6 is equals to plus 1 because it is in an incremental mode, right? So SO of k minus 1, that is SO of 5, that is also in the incremental mode. So this will be again plus 1. So when we substitute all these values in this given equation, you'll get del of 6 is equals to delta plus delta, that is 2 delta. So in this way, you can see the variation in the incoming signal is more. Accordingly, step size is also changed. When the variation is almost constant, accordingly the step size is also reduced. So by this dash line, you can observe the output of DM over here. Now you can imagine how much amount of slope overload error is there. So this is how this ADM overcome the disadvantage of slope overload error and granular noise. So this is the receiver for adaptive delta modulation. So in order to use or take the decision about this step size variation, this uses again a processor. Then it is a combination of two things. ADM is converted to the DM, and after that a normal DM receiver is used. Clear? So these are the advantages and drawbacks for DM, for adaptive delta modulation. Low signaling rate, simple to implement, better bandwidth utilization compared to DM, improved signal to noise ratio, wide dynamic range due to variable step size, reduction in the noise. Disadvantages are the noise results in the accumulated error in the demodulated signal. That is a single drawback. Now here is the comparison between PCM, DM, ADM and DPCM, where the different parameters we have assumed. First, number of bits per sample. So in case of PCM, it is more than 1. In DM, it is 1. ADM, 1. In DPCM, in between 4 to 6, but less than PCM. Bandwidth, higher, lowest, for ADM lowest, for DPCM, lower than PCM. Step size for PCM is fixed, for DM, fixed. ADM, it is adaptive, DPCM, fixed. Similarly, quantization error, complexity of error, sampling rate in kilohertz, bit rate in kbps. So if you look at these different values, the bit rate for PCM is this one. For DM it is increased. For ADM it is quite less than DM, but greater than PCM. For DPCM it is 32 to 48. All these are kbps. Clear? So this is a comparative chart for all this system, from which one can conclude few factors that DM and ADM are more suitable as far as bandwidth utilization is concerned. Clear? So this is all about digitization techniques. So let me check any doubts over there. Yes, any queries? Yes, students. Any doubts that you have?
Student, you can ask a question by putting a message on a chat box.
I know it is quite difficult to digest the thing in the 2 hours or 3 hours, because almost we have in the classroom we used to cover these contents in 15 or 16 lectures, but still I have tried to cope up with.
Student can ask their questions and they can put their questions in the chat box.
No doubts? So all these contents are available on the YouTube channel also. The link is already shared with the Dude sir. So Dude, I request Dude sir, sir, you can kindly share the link with the student. You can subscribe to the channel and you will get the continuous update regarding the upcoming videos also. So in that channel you will find this content in a splitted form. So it will be easy for you to understand the things, because it is quite difficult for anyone to cover these huge content of 2 units in the 3 hours. So I have tried on my end. So you can watch those videos step by step whenever you get the time, so that you will understand the concepts.
Yes, definitely, sir. Student will definitely go through your YouTube channel. I, Dhanashree Phore, again take the privilege to have a vote of thanks. We had a very good session from the last day. You have tried a better or the best one to cover up maximum points related to the digital communication along with the some analog communication. You have covered most of the concept from the basic which is required for the student to be in this our electronics field. You have tried to cover maximum points in the 2 days. I hope the students will get definitely a benefit of our this online guest lecture. I again very much thankful to the Secretary of Jagdamba College of Engineering and Technology, Dr. Sheetal Watile sir, and the Principal of Jagdamba College Engineering, Dr. Hemant Baratkar sir, for their continuous guidance and motivation to conduct the guest lecture. Along with very much thankful to the head of the department, Professor Barbudde sir, the coordinator, Professor A.R. Dude sir, and whole the team of the Jagdamba College of Engineering and Technology, and mostly very much thankful to Swapnil Ayane sir that he has given his precious time to our students, to motivate our students, to guide our students on this communication line. I am very much thankful to all the organizing committee and all the students, those who have attended the session, and again request to all the students that they can definitely go through the YouTube channel of by the Swapnil sir, so that they will get more details about the topics. And thank you very much from this presentation side.
Thank you, ma'am.
Students can left the group now.